International environmental agreements are an integral part to helping combat our current climate crisis. But what are they? International environmental agreements, or IEAs for short, are multilateral agreements ratified by multiple countries that help to promote international cooperation, address global environmental challenges, and monitor and enforce the progress of the said agreements. But how did they come into play? Well, before the 1960s, the public had very little to no concern about the environment. As a result of that, there were no multilateral agreements for anything environmentally related. There were some tries, but ultimately failed as they never gained any momentum. However, the attitude started to change in 1962 when the book Silent Spring by Rachel Carson was published. This book exposed the dangers of pesticides and raised awareness of what these can do for our environment. The New York Times has quoted this book as jumpstarting the environmental movement. After that, people started to become more involved and aware of the effects humans have on the environment. This timeline shows the beginning of the environmental movement and highlights some major milestones, some that you may have heard of, such as the Paris Climate Agreement, and some lesser known ones, such as the Earth Rio Summit of 1992. As you can see, 10 years after the publication of Silent Springs, the very first IEA was met and held in Stockholm, Sweden, in 1972 for the Stockholm Declaration. Even though there have been more than hundreds of IEAs, there are three major ones that stand out and were more influential than others. The first one being the UNFCCC. This agreement was the very first to explicitly address climate change and have the words in their agreement. The next one was the Millennium Declaration of 2000. This agreement was the first one to recognize that a healthy environment is also a human right and to address human rights. Lastly, and probably the most important, was the Paris Climate Agreement in 2016. This agreement is to date the most proactive as it sets strict goals such as the 30 SDGs for countries to reach by 2030. Many people wonder the validity of the agreements and if they have truly made a difference, and the answer is yes. There have been many successes. One of the most successful to date was the Montreal Protocol. This agreement set strict limits and overall eliminated 99% of the ozone depleting substances. Studies have shown that because of this, the ozone will be almost fully healed by 2050. In addition, countries continually strengthen their climate commitments every year to reach the standards of these agreements. However, there are some setbacks to IEAs. These agreements often promote free riding due to the inherent nature of global environmental challenges, which exhibit characteristics of public goods. Going off of that, international environmental agreements often lack effective enforcement mechanisms due to the nature of international law and the complexity of environmental issues. Lastly, there are many political obstacles as government officials and governments continue to prioritize economic growth and tend not to focus on environmental matters. Even though we as individuals do not have a say in these agreements, we can vote for people who do. The best way to help out our environment is to vote for candidates that believe in the science and will work to make our planet better, not worse. Thank you for learning about international environmental agreements.